all across that spectrum in various degrees. It's a spectrum. It's not clear-cut black and white. So everyone has to navigate in some ways, and even Jews who marry Jews can fall into these categories where one may be atheist and one may be a believer. And they have to navigate, well, what are we going to do about it? So this is just a conversation that has to happen in marriage around different things. And so depending on if it's two people who are believers in their separate faiths, then you again have this breakdown of we can raise the kid in both faiths. If we have children, we can raise them in both faiths, or we can raise them only in one faith and the other spouse can continue to practice their faith separately. The intermarried households are doing the whole gamut. And to say anything really about intermarried households is a bit ridiculous because it's so many people and it's more diverse than the Jews. And what can we say about the Jews that we would all agree on? Nothing. Jews all believe God? No. Jews all support Israel? No. There's not, Jews all call themselves Jews. Okay, maybe. So intermarried households are even more diverse because you've got some who are doing Christianity or another religion altogether without Judaism at all. And then you've got the whole spectrum of Jewish expression, and then you've got this whole big mix. So I've met many couples, and there are communities in some cities, so I don't know about out here, but I do know that in New York, for example, there's a community called Interfaith Community where they have Sunday school and they bring in rabbinic students and they bring in clergy from Christian denominations, and the kids learn about everything. There's no prayer going on, there's no prayer services, it's a school. They learn about all the religions, and then at a certain point, and they're not pushed to do it, but at a certain point the kids know that they will make a decision of one or the other. And these are mostly families who are both feel very strongly about their respective religious traditions and didn't want to make a choice. They want to leave the choice for that children. I went to their 20-year celebration, and by the way, the Jewish community gives them no money. I went to their 20-year celebration, and the woman who runs it shared a statistic. About 60% of those kids come out saying, I'm Jewish, and they opt for a bar and bat mitzvah. And of the other 40%, maybe about 20 come out saying, I'm Christian, and the other 20 say, I'm still undecided. And yet, the Jewish community won't give, in New York, won't give them any grants because it's still so threatening that these kids are, and frankly, from what I've seen from the kids, they basically come out at age 13 as religion majors. They know everything about each of these religions, and they're so cerebral about it that I think it's hard for them to think any of it can be believable. But, everyone is on their journey. Yes, I'm in the very back. Sorry.
I have more of a personal question for you as a member of an interfaith marriage. I'm the non-Jewish half of our intermarried household, and a lot of our friends are surprisingly in the more modern Orthodox or conservative groups. These are people we socialize with, and every now and then I find myself in these spaces where it's very clear that people around me don't believe in the validity of my marriage, and they don't believe that my children are really Jewish. And it's been hard to know exactly what to say. I mean, I would love it if they could come to a 45-minute lecture with you, but since they can't, when you and your wife are in those situations where it's really clear that someone who you socialize with and that you're friendly with and that you has value, you want to maintain the relationship, but they don't believe that your marriage is valid. What do you do in that situation? Do you?
I unfriend them.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I've been working at this for a long time, I have avoided that, but I see it happen all the time, and I hear it, and I know it happens, and I'm very sorry to hear that it happens, and the best I can do is offer that you empathize where that's coming from, even though it's wrong. I believe that they're wrong, but it comes from a place of persecution and fear. And now they're not being persecuted anymore, but there's a memory there. And frankly, I'm part of a group called 3G, which means third generation after Holocaust survivors. And there have been scientific studies now that say that trauma is coded in your DNA and may go all the way down 3 generations. My son is the happiest-go-lucky kid in the world, so my job is just don't blow that. But I think that he didn't get it, you know, which is great. But there's trauma in the Jewish community. I mean, this is where this comes from, is from a place of trauma and a place of closing ranks. And then they see stuff that happens, like in Charlottesville, and it just confirms their worldview that everybody's out to get us. And so it's very hard for them to think openly. That's one piece of it. And then the other piece of it is a whole other conversation around privilege, right? There is a thing, so first of all, if you don't know what white privilege is, go Google that. I'm not going to lecture you. But I wrote a piece years ago called Born Jewish Privilege. So here's Born Jewish Privilege. If your mother is Jewish, you don't need to do a single thing Jewish your whole life, and then you can tell folks like this couple that their kids really aren't Jewish. Their kids can do everything Jewish, can be involved in the Jewish community, get bar mitzvah, give money to Israeli causes, be super involved, and they won't have that born Jewish privilege of matrilineal descent in the Orthodox and conservative movements. And all I can do is continue to advocate for a change and I know that the majority of American Jews would recognize your kids as Jewish, and you're just in this unique position. So the third and final thing I'll say is that even rabbis in those movements, and perhaps it's worth sitting down if you can find an open-minded conservative rabbi, will acknowledge the difference between Jewish and halachically Jewish. So halakha is Jewish law, and you can make a distinction between what's Jewish and what's halachically Jewish. And so again, when you're having a minyan, a Torah read, you need 10 men for to read from the Torah, according to Orthodoxy, and in many conservative synagogues, it's 10 men or women. They want those people to have a Jewish mother or to have converted into it through one of their rabbis. And that, I don't want to advocate for them to change, because that's their belief and their understanding of what Judaism is. And there are other expressions of Judaism that I hope people will find and gravitate to. But even they can recognize that in living your life, in participating in a JCC, in being part of a Jewish film festival, nobody needs to be halakhically Jewish. Nobody needs to be Jewish to do any of those things. So why do they choose to maintain that border that they're maintaining? You're not asking for an aliyah to the Torah, to be called up to the Torah. So what borders are they trying to maintain, and why are they trying to maintain them? And perhaps just, if you can do it in a civil way, ask them, why is that important for you to maintain that boundary when I'm not asking to be part of your minyan, or where you need halakhic Jews? Why maintain that boundary? And if you can then also say, and I spoke to your rabbi and he says it's totally fine, then.
So we've been kind of coming at this in a sense from a variety of angles, but that list that you had before of what is essential to Jewish, and I think that some people were interpreting it as what is unique about being Jewish. I think some of the people that answered the question that might have been.
Okay.
But they're two different questions, and they're kind of interesting questions, because essential to being Jewish is you think of, okay, your comment about what about the other 31% that didn't think that you had to have morals, right? And I think maybe they interpreted the question about what's unique, but certainly it's not unique to being Jewish.
Right.
To have
Jewish criminals.
So,
right. Well, no, but that's also what Boulder was saying before.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And
right.
it made me think that maybe people were interpreting the question.
The same for all of these answers, right?
But if you start thinking, if you change and ask a different question, what is unique about being Jewish? Well,
right.
What is unique about being Jewish? Except for that one at the bottom that said, obeying Jewish law. It's hard to think of what is unique about being Jewish.
So I think that everybody has to articulate their own reasons and answers, but that we're at a point in Jewish history where we actually do need to articulate those things. So for example, if you're going to represent all of Judaism to your grandkids, you know, you've got to articulate why you're doing it. Like, not just do it, but, you know, I love lighting Hanukkah candles because it makes me think of X, Y, and Z. So I can give you answers that I've thought of about what connects me, and so I think that, again, I mentioned that Jewish history is fascinating to me, and I feel like being connected to Jewish history lets you understand what it's like to experience minority status and discrimination and hate, and forces you to become more empathetic. So Judaism causes greater empathy. I can't prove that, but I feel like that's one of the benefits of being Jewish. And again, it doesn't happen for everybody, but I'd like to suggest that that's one of the benefits, and I think that there are many others. But everybody has to come at it from their own angles, and for some people it really is eating Jewish foods. And, you know, my wife says she's as Jewish as me because she likes chopped liver and gefilte fish. So, you know, if that's her connection to it, then that's fine, and I don't feel like we need to put a value judgment on one thing or the other. And the other piece about it, and particularly coming at it from a secular humanistic perspective, where we still do ritual, we still do Jewish ritual, we still learn and study from our Jewish past, because those voices that were preserved for some of them up to 1,000 years or more, in the Talmud, this amazing debate that's recorded, can still be of value, because much of what they're debating is about life on earth between humans, and it's not about the relationship between man and God. So why should we give up this conversation between some very brilliant people that's been happening for thousands of years because we want to break with the superstitious aspects of religion? There can still be great wisdom that we can mine from this tradition. I think that's another important piece for me. I don't know what time we were supposed to end, but how about now? Thank you.
We're not rushing off, so please have another bagel on your way. If you want to informally ask questions or continue the conversation, you're welcome to do so. But we are officially ending, and we really want to thank Paul Golin for being here today with us and having such a wonderful talk. Thank you to Sheila. Thank you to Lenore. Thanks all to the Beth Me members. I think it's really wonderful, because one of the things that I always feel about Judaism is that it's a wisdom tradition, and that's what Reb Zalman used to say, and one of the wisdoms is community, the value of community. And it can be organized around a lot of principles. You know, your kid plays soccer and you're part of the soccer community. But in Judaism, if people fall away from community, that can be, you know, a loss of a benefit. So it's really wonderful. One of the things I really love about humanistic Judaism is that it brings community back into Jewish life for people who may find the whole God thing problematic, as many do. So, and again, what the definition of God is. So I really think it's very relevant, very important conversation we've had today, and it's been my delight to host.